Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com. I'm joined by John Clark tonight to talk about WWE NXT, the Great American Bash. John, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you on this fine evening of they actually treated this show like an actual like event where they had the whole introduction and everything, and they even had some fireworks tonight.
They did? Oh, I mean, I
For
missed that.
Carmelo's entrance, they had some.
Oh yeah. Carmelo Hayes had a very very special entrance. They did go all out and make it feel like a very special episode as it was, and usually we see them do something to kind of make it feel a little more unique. In this case, we had an opening video package. We had a special entrance for Carmelo Hayes, special entrance stage. So they went all out. Definitely a very special episode with a very noteworthy card here. A bunch of title matches we can dive into here. Hope everyone enjoyed your 4th of July holiday. We were talking about it on the Raw post show last night, and now we have the post July 4th celebration because they treated this like it was the July 4th, like they treated it like it was very much the holiday on NXT tonight. But definitely again a very holiday centric episode. So always fun to have kind of a special show like that, and especially when it delivers. So we'll talk about the card before we do. Just want to remind you all this show, like everything we do here, is available on all of our platforms: SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff and more. So please leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate it. So with that being said, let's just dive right in. The show opened with the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Toxic Attraction defending against Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. This was the match where I think we talked about this the weeks, especially last week being official. It felt like a pretty good opportunity to have Toxic Attraction lose. And John, they did. We had new champions crowned, Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade, unofficially known as Team 2001, real life friends, real life, well, especially with Roxanne, a newcomer here to NXT relatively, has hit the ground running. Has been very successful so far. And here she had this big opportunity for the title, and she and Cora Jade won. It was a good match in the end. Mandy Rose got ejected from ringside, so she could not cause any shenanigans. And when that happened, I was like, we might get Tajane here because like usually they would have Mandy interfere or something without her around. Open up the door for a seemingly open door for a title change, and Roxanne and Cora won. So, John, that being said, what do you think about Roxanne and Cora winning here?
I like the result, but I don't necessarily like how they got to that point. And what I mean by that is the match realistically looked better on paper than it actually did like on the show tonight. The four of them worked pretty well together, but it definitely felt like there wasn't really much of a plan beforehand, if that makes any sense. Like it felt like a normal match, like a normal tag match you'd see any other week. The result was like pretty sudden. Like I wasn't expecting it to end when it did. They didn't even really kick out of like any like finishers like you would typically see in a title match, where you like kick out of a couple finishers before the match finally ends. I mean, nevertheless, the biggest positive I think out of everything here is that there are finally new champions. Now, while Toxic Attraction have been pretty good for 10 months now, like I said, 10 months they've dominated for a little bit too long now. I'm hoping this isn't another Dakota Kai and Raquel situation where they're only the champs for like what 2 or 3 weeks. But the women's tag division definitely gets more attention in NXT than it does on the main roster, so that's pretty nice to see.
I mean, yeah, not to knock the main roster, but right now their women's tag title scene is non-existent. Whereas here in NXT, they have the titles, they're being defended, and then tonight they changed hands. So, it's a nice kind of change of pace, I guess, when you're watching Raw and SmackDown. And right now with the Sasha Banks Naomi thing, not having the women's tag titles be a part of the show, whereas on NXT we have matches like this, and I enjoyed it, even if maybe the match itself wasn't great. I guess I was more so maybe looking at maybe some of the individual performances. Like again, I was impressed with Roxanne Perez. Very, I just think she's really hit the ground running here since she arrived in NXT. She just seems like a real natural. And this is a really big chance for her to, even if they lost, it would have been a good, kind of this big high-profile match. And then she won, so they did kick off their reign as the NXT Women's Title Champions. Not too much later in the show, we had a backstage promo where Roxanne said, she was so excited, so happy to be the champions with her best friend Cora Jade. She wants to keep it going. She said she's ready. Next week, she's cashing in the NXT Women's the breakout tournament opportunity that she got on Mandy Rose, challenging for the NXT Women's Championship here. Now that's interesting to me because they just won the titles tonight. I wouldn't think that they would do a title change with Mandy next week. Maybe we'll get some kind of wonky ending and they'll draw it out. But a little interesting to just do that immediately right next week.
I mean, I'm surprised this is like her. I thought her cash-in was on the tag title match. I didn't know that that was just a natural thing that they had earned and that the actual cashing in the championship opportunity was coming next week on the show. I'm hoping that's what they do. As much as I hate to say it, you don't really always particularly like to see screwy finish with shenanigans in the end, but I think that would be the best bet because you don't want to see a clean loss a week after winning these tag titles, but at the same time, I don't see why they would have a double champion immediately that quickly. It kind of takes the focus away from the tag titles in the tag division as well.
Yeah, I agree. And Steven agrees, saying that Roxanne could win by DQ. That way Mandy retains. And then even before this tonight, what we saw, how it went down, I've been assuming or thinking, or at least hoping we would see Roxanne versus Mandy at whatever the next big show is, if it's SummerSlam weekend or so, or something like that.
And you would think if there is going to be a show that weekend, they'd have to announce it like now.
Yeah, they're quickly running out of time. I think that's less than 3 weeks or so. Yeah, maybe like what, 4 weeks or whatever.
A little over 3. They would have 3 more episodes of NXT after this to prepare for it.
Yeah. So still no real update on that officially, but you would assume if it's going to happen, we're going to find out soon. Otherwise, here Eddie predicting that we could see Mandy win by distraction, and then you could have Nikita Lyons come out to make the save. We were talking about this last week. They do have some options if they want to have Nikita Lyons be the one that Mandy feuds with. If you want to have I guess she's probably one of the better options. But, when you have Nikita, you have this Roxanne thing that they could draw out to this next big show. It's going to have multiple compelling options there. Now she says maybe Roxanne will get taken out and she can't cash in. I hope they do the match. I think and I hope they do. And also I am a little skeptical if they do, because Roxanne, I think her first night, I think she faced, maybe not the first night, one of her first matches on NXT was against Mandy Rose.
And yeah, it was her second match.
Yeah, I was hesitant to have them run that back too much, especially if this is the plan for the next big women's title match here. DJ says in this week we talk this just a good amount throughout Toxic Attraction's reign here, saying maybe Mandy loses next week, and then we see Toxic Attraction all go up to main roster to help out the women's division on both sides of the thing. What about being Raw and SmackDown? I think that'd be more likely after the next big event. Like, it would make sense to have Mandy lose there, because she's had a very lengthy, substantial reign as the champion. She's been like kind of the face of the NXT Women's Division for quite a while now. So maybe that'd be a good kind of way to kind of conclude that, and then kick off this new era by having her potentially leave and go to the main roster, and then the new champion having that crowning moment. But yeah, if they do some kind of big show for SummerSlam weekend, not only would they'd have to announce the show to begin with, you'd have to assume that they would, start making the card pretty clear, and maybe we'll see that more of that come to fruition next week. And as we go forward here, Steven says Mandy's holding the belt for Nikita, so maybe Nikita being the next one in line. Didn't really see Nikita tonight. She wasn't on the card. She was part of the opening video of the barbecue thing, but. You can't always be on the card for everybody, but looking for the match for next week. Shenanigans very well could be likely, but that was one of 4 time matches we had tonight. Let's dive into another one here. Carmelo Hayes defending the North American title against Grayson Waller, 2 of the top stars here on NXT 2.0. Grayson Waller tricked his way into getting this match here, where he made Carmelo sign his merch or whatever, and tricked him into signing a contract. That was a very good match. Carmelo Hayes, another one of those guys, very, very impressive. Pretty much impresses me on a weekly basis. I'm always impressed by how smooth he is in the ring. I'm always impressed because he seems like a real natural star overall here. So I think I've been happy with him being the North American champion. I didn't really think there was a real shot of him losing tonight, and he did not. He won, albeit with a little. Well, no, Wesley didn't help. Wesley took out Trick Williams, but then having kind of the field leveled with that, Carmelo still won the match there. And that takes us back to John a couple weeks ago. We were talking about a potential feud here with Wesley and Carmelo Hayes. But what do they know this match here with Carmelo retaining? Good match here between Carmelo and Grayson Waller tonight.
Yeah, this was a very good match. In fact, it was one of Grayson Waller's best matches ever in NXT, and I thought just as a regular TV match for NXT, this is one of their best of the year as well. The action was pretty good. The final sequence was also very good. I don't want this rivalry to particularly end right now. I think that there's still much that they can both bring to the table together. They have chemistry. I think they could deliver more matches. I'm not saying I want Grayson Waller to win the championship. I'm just saying that I believe they both could continue the rivalry and deliver quality matches.
I don't know. It's weird because like this is one of those feuds that they're both heels, and I don't know how much longer they can really draw it out. I mean, yeah, they had the merch thing yesterday. Last week where he signed the merch and everything. But he lost here, and he has an excuse for a rematch. But beyond that, I don't see all that much more to it. Maybe a rematch next week after that, whatever. But it was a very good match. I would not mind seeing it again. But another comment saying maybe we'll see Carmelo facing Wesley potentially again, as we saw Wesley get involved here against Trick Williams. DJ says Carmelo Hayes needs to be a face. He has a good fan base, and he compares it to a Liv Morgan kind of way. I think he's a natural heel. He's definitely this like swagger and just very natural kind of heel charisma. I think he could work as a face as well. But I think he's a very, very good heel from what we've seen so far. And I think he's doing a great job in that role right now. Steven says he was a better match than he thought we would get between Hayes and Waller. I mean, I thought it'd be a good match. I'm very impressed by both guys pretty consistently. And again, I wouldn't mind seeing it again. I just wonder how that would kind of work because, last week was the kind of the motive to do that. And then moving forward, it's like other than the fact that Grayson has an excuse, not a whole lot more you could really do with that, at least as far as I can see it. But good match here. I like the idea of seeing Wesley face Trick Williams, although Wesley lost tonight. Wesley lost to Trick Williams. Trick Williams came out dressed in like this boxing gear. He had a boxing robe, and I guess that's kind of his thing. Like we haven't really seen what his gimmick is, so this is as a singles guy. This is one of our first real chances to see him on his own, and then Carmelo was out with him, but this is a real big opportunity for him kind of to step outside that shadow a little bit. Thought the match was fine. In the end, Trick Williams got his bottle, and at first I thought it was water. I got confused when he was like rubbing water in his hands. I'm like, what's he gonna do with that? And then he blinded Wesley, and the commentary team said it was rubbing alcohol. I was like, okay, that makes more sense. And then he kicked him and got the win there. So a bit of a mixed bag of a situation. If they want to have Wesley challenge the title, would have been maybe a little more ideal to have him win tonight, but instead Trick Williams got the win, and we'll wait and see how it unfolds from here. But John, what do you think about the showing for Trick Williams and Wesley tonight?
I actually thought the ending was a little bit more clever than they gave credit to, although admittedly for the live crowd, they might have been left wondering what the heck was going on because the commentators kind of filled in what was actually going on. It's rare that, WWE does something that's kind of unique like this. This was the first time I think I've heard of at least Trick Williams doing something like this with the rubbing alcohol. This is probably going to be a rematch, I would think, and I would assume something screwy is going to happen again. But I do agree, with him like not really looking strong, there's no reason he should have a title match. He is again continuing to kind of fall into that Kushida role where there's not really a spot, but you want to continue to have him featured on the show. Therefore, he's kind of just losing repeatedly because they don't really have a direction to go in, but they want him to be on TV.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good comparison here. I was hoping this match would be a spot where he could get a big win like that because for a while, this was last year we're talking, there's a stretch of time where Kushida lost like every kind of big match. But as you said, he would put on good matches. You'd be kind of rooting for him. But then every time something came up, he would lose. And then, just kind of at that level. And we'll hear with Wesley, as we've talked about, everything with MSK. In definitely a rough spot where MSK forcibly broke up and he was kind of left floating around like with nothing to do. And they put him on TV and they've like tried to make something of it, but he still does feel a little aimless. Although even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, they do have this kind of potential feud in the making, either with a rematch with Trick Williams or as we saw later, he got involved with Carmelo Hayes' match. Even if it's a short-term thing, I think there's definitely something there. Steven says we could see a tag team match of Wesley and whoever he finds as a partner against Strick and Camelo potentially next week, or again, if we're talking, maybe it feels like a good short-term thing. Eisen Walker saying we could have Wesley tag with Ricochet. That'd be a lot of fun. Ricochet, a guy that I've often hoped to see return to NXT if they don't do a lot of him on the main roster. Lately, they've been using him a little better, but he just lost the IC title, so maybe that could be something we could see at some point, even just like a temporary move to NXT for him. Someone that's a little more permanently on NXT here, at least for now, Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews is on the show tonight. He had a promo, and he's saying his kids have helped him like recapture the spark that he has for us and the spark in his career. He told his kids he loved them. He was saying he was naming a bunch of people he wants to face. He named Nathan Frazier. He said he was going to be watching the winner of the North American title match. And, of course, he was going to watch the NXT title match tonight. And then, blanking on the name. Giovanni Vinci, or Vinci, whatever, interrupted him, the former Fabian Eichner, interrupted him and said that he wanted to prove that he was the supreme athlete, and he wanted to do that next week and show me he's gonna do it in style, that he is the true superior athlete on NXT. And he said, like, he threw in a line about his kids at the end, so now Apollo's going to be all fired up. I think it's an interesting matchup. Not exactly what I would have predicted for Apollo here in this run on NXT, although it's kind of cool they're using him to establish these new stars that he previously, and he still kind of is feuding with Zion Quinn. Now he's working with Giovanni Vinci, so unexpected, but definitely could be beneficial to have him working with with new talent.
I mean, yeah, if Cruz is truly going to be on that brand for the long haul, then has plenty that he can do and plenty of people that he could work with. I saw somebody ask earlier when he lost the accent. When he first came back to NXT a couple of weeks ago, I believe he was completely rebranded with a new theme, new graphics package, and of course he lost the accent. Basically, I mean, he basically trashed his own previous gimmick tonight. He said, that's not who I wanted to be, and that's not who I am as a person. So he basically was saying, I'm not really a Nigerian prince with a commander, even though he was champion for 3 months. Basically, he said his kids were like, I don't know if he said that they were afraid of him or that's not really.
I think they didn't recognize him.
Yeah, so they quit watching or something. But the second that he came back to NXT, they started watching nonstop, I guess. So, and then of course when you talk about family, make it personal, which is what he did. Said he wasn't dressed to compete; he was dressed for a night out. We'll see how it works. I'm hoping they give Apollo at least some wins here and don't just have him start being the jobber to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think potentially again, we keep talking in a hypothetical. If they have the SummerSlam weekend kind of thing, if they give Apollo some wins, it does feel like he could be a good option for Braun Breaker. We'll talk about him later in the show, but already having just him be someone that's been established before, give him a couple of wins, you could pretty easily cement him as this contender on NXT here. So next week we'll face Giovanni. Although on the other hand, I wouldn't really want to see him lose because they're trying to build him up as this new guy as well. It's a bit of a it's rough to see. It's hard to see which would be the better path forward there because they both kind of need to win in that sense. But another comment about Apollo and his accent. Herman's wondering when he lost the accent. I think he lost it the first time he was on NXT. It came out because that was the first time he was on TV in a number of weeks, and ever since then it's been a thing of the past. And I think we're all very, very, very glad for it. But Eddie's saying Apollo could be the perfect NXT North American champion. That'd be a good match, Apollo Crews versus Kamala Hayes potentially. Maybe if I was talking about the NXT title, maybe that could be something for the next big show, Kamala versus Apollo for the North American title instead. I think that'd definitely be a very fun match to see as well.
Yeah, that'd be intriguing. I'd be interested in seeing that.
Yeah. So we will see Giovanni versus Apollo next week, and I think that could be pretty telling about what the at least short-term future holds for Apollo there. Potentially as a title contender there. But otherwise here, another title match. Let's get into it. We had the tag title match, of course, the Diamond Mine Implosion. The Creed Brothers fighting against Roderick Strong and Damon Kemp. This has been in the works for a while now, where we're seeing a lot of tension, a lot of drama with the Diamond Mine. Are they going to explode? Are they going to split up? Before the match, early in the show, Ivanel had an interview saying the Diamond Mine, they're all alpha athletes and they all want to be alphas essentially, and then they had this like pre-match huddle, still very tense, and then we had the match. Now, John, I tweeted about it. I said, "Oh, David Kemp looks like a natural," and someone said like he was like the worst part of the match and he was terrible. Like I thought I was like fairly impressed. Again, this is only I think we've seen him 5 times total on TV. Like I know he may have been a level up here and there, but like for the main NXT show, like we haven't seen him all that much. And kind of with that in mind, I thought he performed pretty well in this tag team match tonight. So I tweeted that and got some blowback for it. I've enjoyed what we've seen from him so far. It seems like a very natural athlete. The Creed brothers have become a very good tag team in a short amount of time. They're one of the WWE's best at this point. They got the win here. They wound up pinning Damon Kemp. After the match, Roderick Strong still not happy. So it's still very clear. Dynamite definitely is on thin ice by the looks of it.
They're telling an interesting story here because if you think about it, you might think that there was no drama or no story behind this match. But I think the point of this was really to show that Roderick Strong and Kemp didn't really have a chance. And I think that's the direction they want to go in because Roderick Strong, this is going to eat him alive. He can't keep up with the Creeds, who he kind of like brought up, and now like they've overtaken him in his spot. He was obviously the ring general of this match tonight. He was the experienced veteran that kind of led, directed the traffic here. And he made the Creed brothers look as good as arguably they ever have. And then, of course, let's not forget that Ivy Nile was a part of the show tonight as well. She was kind of interviewed, and she said, the Diamond Mine will never fall apart. It's stronger than just a team. We're basically family. And then she surprisingly came to the defense of Tatum Paxley and said, be in the dojo tomorrow morning. So potentially adding another member here. I think in the long run here, if anything, I think Roderick Strong kind of phases himself out and everybody else remains in. I don't see them kind of putting Kemp on his own yet. I mean, I agree with what you said. I don't necessarily think he was like the standout of the match, but he definitely impressed enough to make you want to see him again and see what he can do. Let's not forget, this might be a good transition here. Tiffany Stratton looked pretty bad at first as well, but now she's starting to look better and better and better. Before, we'll mention what DJ said that Roderick Strong kicked out of the group soon. Ivan now taking over as the leader. And then, like I mentioned about the dojo tomorrow, that'll be interesting if that happens. But like I said about Tiffany Stratton, she was in a similar position as Kemp here, not getting a lot of TV time, not necessarily looking good. I mean, Kemp looked good, but Stratton did not look good at the start. Tonight, she defeats Wendy Chu. Both, I know you're not really a huge fan of Wendy Chu, but I think both of these characters have potential to be something special on the main roster. Stratton has found her way in the ring, proves it week in and week out. Her character has gotten better. She's doing good heel work. It was a silly altercation in the back that turned into a good in-ring match. It was only 5 minutes, but for what we got, it was fine. Tiffany Stratton, or as people call her, and she calls herself the Buff Barbie, winning this match. It was fine. Her booking has been good. Her character work has been good. Honestly, she'll probably be in the title scene before too long. I would imagine by the end of the summer, she'll have worked her way up there. But, I mean, what do you think of this whole Tiffany Stratton elevation of her character and, of course, the Wendy Chu deal here?
I mean, we talked about it for the past number of weeks. Like, I've been very impressed with her in the ring as a character, and I think it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. Like, did she start improving and then she got pushed, or did she get pushed and then start improving? But like, it feels like they've been kind of parallel, where like we've seen that again happen at the same time. Because at first definitely not blown away, and now the improvement is absolutely wonderful, and it's very, very, very apparent just on a weekly basis here. So that's very good to see that, any number of other stars here, she's become one of them, where they benefited. They were kind of thrust in the deep end on NXT, and now she's swimming and doing very well. Is she the best, the greatest? Not necessarily. DJ wonders. Should she still work on her mic skills? Is she good enough at that? I mean, if you're in NXT, like I would hope you're always working. Like you're presumably going to the performance center, taking classes, working with the coaches, there's, in theory, that doesn't just plateau or stop. Like in theory, you would kind of keep improving, working to get better. And I'd say even on the main roster, like if you're in the business. I would hope like you're trying to get better, and I know that's not true of everybody, but like, I would hope that that's kind of the general attitude. As Eddie points out, Tiffany has a gymnastics background, so it maybe could be easy to translate athletically, to have those abilities translate to the ring, and then everything else kind of the more intangibles and the more promo character side of it, that's quick, and the specific wrestling side of it kind of comes after that. But definitely always helps to have an athletic background like that. Deidre says Tiffany needs to attend Chase University. We'll talk about Chase University later, but hey, she's learning all by herself. She doesn't need to go to actual class at Chase University. Like, she's clearly, whatever she's doing is working. She got the win tonight. I think you had mentioned that we had this brawl backstage. Now, and that brings up just one point. Part of that, the brawl like kicked off. Tiffany was backstage. Wendy threw powder in her face as she does, and then the brawl starts, and then we go to picture in picture. There was so much picture in picture tonight. And like, I understand that like if that's what they want to do, like that's what they're gonna do. And there's a plus to it. That's one way you can have full matches on TV. But it's one of my pet peeves. I really don't like picture in picture. Like it's hard to follow the match to me. And like I was like following the brawl, but like there's no audio, so it's like I don't particularly care for it. Like it's fine, but definitely just worth pointing out.
I mean, the whole like backstage brawl between Chu and Stratton was on picture in picture, so you really had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, again, thankfully they kicked it off right before the commercial, and then that continued through the commercial, and then when we came back out, they were I think either getting in the ring or in the ring, and then the match started. So again, like it's there are pros and cons. I get it. It helps the show, because with normal commercials, you don't have anything. It's like commercial and then you come back. Whereas this, at least the show kind of keeps going. It's just I don't particularly care for it. So, but I'll have to get over it. But I thought the match was fine. We were talking about this last week. Definitely, I was hoping that Tiffany would win. Admittedly, not the biggest fan of Wendy Chu, but also this was definitely a good opportunity for Tiffany to really cement herself as as a prominent player. If she lost, that kind of. Yeah, the improvement's great, but like the win had really helped her kind of continue that elevation, as mentioned, especially if whether it's Roxanne or Nikita Lyons, if a face wins the title, we could definitely be sitting here, later in the summer or whatever, and having Tiffany be the pretty strong, or at least maybe a strong heel challenger, maybe not in a literal sense, but maybe in a strong and cowardly kind of thing. But I definitely didn't think that feels realistic after this one tonight, and I feel pretty confident that she's going to keep climbing up here, because again, the improvement definitely deserves a shout out, because it's been night and day in a lot of ways. So good one for Tiffany Stratton here. I don't know if I really want to see the feud continue, but maybe there's a little more bad blood to be settled here, because like they were brawling, and there's easily the excuse like, oh, like there wasn't a real proper match, like they're brawling, and the led to the match, so I could see them doing another rematch or something. But I would hope Tiffany would win that as well, to get some matches to keep what's climbing up the ladder here. But DJ points out there was Joke doing so much of the picture-in-picture story of the brawl backstage, and then they come back to the show and they say the start of the match early. He wonders if they had to take anything out of the script to move the match up on the card. Possible. I don't know. Maybe this is the plan all along. WWE can have some kind of interesting formatting choices sometimes, but who's to say? Eisen Walker says picture would only make sense if they actually have a couple matches while a commercial is on. Otherwise, no one has to pay attention to it once the commercial comes back. I don't know. I think there's a pro and con either way. At least for this, it was a brawl. So like in a way, like at least it wasn't something super important. And like usually picture is hard to follow. I guess I prefer it when it's not during a match, because like I'd rather watch the actual match than have the picture interrupt it. With a brawl, like you can kind of see what was happening. And not to contradict myself, you don't need a lot of the audio commentary, because like people are fighting. I remember they had a scheduled match, so I presume this would lead to the match as scheduled, or that they would get postponed, and we wound up having the match anyway. So I think picture it's here to stay. It's part of the business now. Steven says that he would rather have them do picture during the entrances. I think that's a good use of it as well, and that's just says that it's very easy to miss stuff in picture. I mean, yeah, you miss stuff. And with commentary, because there's no commentary, you miss stuff because it's harder to see. So yeah, definitely not an ideal form of presentation here, but it is one that feels pretty. I mean, maybe they're trying out. Maybe it's here to stay. We'll wait and see what happens there. This is one of the women's matches here tonight. Eddie points out we have a lot of new female talent here that's not here yet, but it's on its way. You have The Rock's daughter. I think her new name in WWE is Ava Rain, but Simone Johnson. And also they announced last week the signing of Valerie Loreda, a former Bellator MMA fighter, or at least fighting prospect. A lot of hype about that. She did, I think, like 5 interviews in the same day. So like they clearly won full court press with the PR on that one. A lot of buzz about that. She said she wants to debut by the end of the year. We'll see what happens there, but definitely a lot more talent is on its way. We'll talk about that. They had a promo tonight, pretty mysterious one, where it was for Axiom. It was a man talking about his love of math and numbers and all these things like that. They didn't reveal who it was, but a lot of people were predicting it was A Kid, which feels like a pretty safe bet. I don't know. They already have like a mathematic kind of gimmick here with Kiana James. We were talking about her before. She was in the women's breakup tournament. It just feels like a very like cliche or very basic gimmick of like, oh, they're a nerd, they like numbers. Essentially, it feels like what it boils down to. Or like, oh, they're a heel because they like math. Like, that feels like that's the way these things kind of usually go. So I'm already kind of not loving the idea. I'm not gonna write it off the first week we see it, but I already have some concerns about that. John, what do you think about potential the Axiom? And then it does feel like it seems like it's going to be A Kid.
I mean, I guess it is what it is. If they're going to repackage him, as long as he's the same, as long as he's just as good in the ring, we'll see how it pans out. I can't come to any conclusions, as you said, until we actually see it. So I'm going to wait to give any constructive criticism until we actually get to see it. And that was the only tease we got tonight. There was a QR code that came on the screen that said "Scan me" or "Scan this." So if you scanned it, it took you to a WWE.com webpage where all it said was 8:10:11. To me, it's not a date because that would be 2011, and August 10th, 2011 was on a Wednesday, so there was no anything relevant on that day. Not to mention, it is not a countdown because if it were 8 days, then it would end on a Wednesday or Thursday morning, and it's not going to be 8 years, and it's not going to be 8 hours. So to me, I came to the conclusion that it could potentially be a Bible verse of some sort that needs to be found and deciphered. I saw people pointing out that it could be 9. There's a 9 missing. It could be 8, 9, 10, 11, and the 9 is missing. So there could be a 9 of some sort that needs to be filled in, or it could just mean who knows what, and I don't know. What do you think?
I have no idea. I initially was like, all right, 8:10. I looked at 8:10 is a Wednesday, so not NXT for Tuesday. The 11, I don't know. You mentioned the 9's missing. I don't know. Remember when they were teasing Diamond Mine and like everyone was way off. Like I have no idea. I don't know what this is. Like was the Axiom thing? Like there's something to kind of sink your teeth into. These are just 3 numbers. I have
This
no
could be
idea.
like the hacker storyline where it just leads to nothing and goes away.
Very well could be. Or maybe, I mean, if you remember what last year they had the battery charging thing and it wound up being was that when it was Tegan Knox, I think, when she returned.
Yes.
Like, so they do stuff like this. Like, it's become part of the NXT.
I feel like with something like this, like with the 8, 10, 11, like it's so specific. Like to me, like they have to know what this is going to be to put this up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. Eisen Walker, Chief Decipherer here, says maybe it's letters. All right. So
It translated to HJK.
Yep, I'm still stumped. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. I'm already a little like girl, I just want to know. Like I don't like sitting here being like, yep.
They're just gonna do like random, like it's gonna say like 12, 14, 15, or it's gonna say like 68, 70, 71 one week, and it's just gonna be random.
I'm just a little thrown off because like the first number is 8, so I'm like, is there something in August? Like that's still a couple weeks away. So like, why draw it out for so long? Like, I don't know. I just says maybe it's a new talent of some sort. If it's HJK, maybe those are someone's initials. I don't know. That's a pretty long name, but I don't know. I like mysteries. I like being left in suspense, but like you got to give me just a little something to sink with my teeth into. Just 3 random numbers. I don't know. Herman says it's theory. He's going to cash in his title, his Money in the Bank contract on the NXT title. Hey, anything's possible. But the man last night on Raw said he plans to cash in on Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar. I think he's clearly made his sights set on the big title, whereas NXT maybe it's not quite where he's reaching for. But we have a couple more things to get through before we talk about the main event. Tony D'Angelo was backstage, and he revealed that Santos Escobar has been hospitalized. He showed Legado del Fantasma a cell phone image of Santos laid up in a hospital. He said that's what you get, because last week Santos kind of laughed at him over the phone and said that he had to handle his business. He did not explicitly say he did it, as always, but it was very clearly implied. And he said Legado, other than Elektra Lopez, who has increased sales by 18% in the shore, whatever that means, Legado has one last chance to prove themselves next week, and we'll see what happens there. But again, I'm thinking we're going to see some kind of big blow off here. DJ says let's fully Photoshop of Santos being in the hospital. I mean, it looked convincing to me. I don't know. I didn't look at it that closely, but it made sense if he were hospitalized or in storyline hospitalized. But any thoughts on how this might continue to unfold here with this one last chance for Legado?
I stand by what we've been talking about the past couple weeks. This is going to end in some sort of final match that put this away for good, whether it be a 1-on-1 or a 2-on-2 or whatever it may be. It can't be a 3-on-3 anymore, so I'm assuming it's going to be a 1-on-1, last man standing, something like that, to kind of put this to bed. Maybe at the takeover for SummerSlam. Granted, they have one. If they're going to have one, they need to announce it like yesterday, because if they're going to sell tickets and stuff. So I'm not convinced there's going to be one in Nashville at this point.
Yeah, again, the clock's ticking, running out of time. It takes time to kind of get those sales, and you usually want some kind of buffer of not doing it at the last minute. So I would say if we don't find out soon, we can probably stop assuming it's going to happen, at least, again, around SummerSlam weekend. But we'll wait and see what happens there. Something else we can see, we thought we were going to get next week and wound up happening sooner. J.D. McDonough, or however, I don't even know how to pronounce it, the former Jordan Devlin, had another vignette tonight. DJ says he looks like a star, looks like he's going to be a star. He has the look and everything you need to be a champion. He says he can see him aligning himself with Pretty Deadly, given their UK ties. And he says he can see him being the one to throw in Braun Breaker. We'll talk more about him later on, but at least before we saw what happened later in the show, we had the vignette where he said that his father told him that he could do anything he wants in life, and he could be great at it. That's what being the Irish Ace is all about. And he says he's so much far further ahead than everyone else on the roster. And then we wound up seeing him a whole week earlier than expected. But again, we'll talk more about him a bit later on in the show here. Another familiar face here on NXT. We had Von Wagner blaming the fans for the reason he was not on the show. And part of me, John, thought that this was like kind of, if not a shoot, at least them kind of like incorporating reality of like, oh, the fans don't like this guy, so he's not on the show. Did you read that similarly, or am I reading too far into it?
No, yeah, that makes sense, but I don't understand. What do you think?
We had the vignette. It was a promo from Von Wagner where he and Robert Stone were saying that, and then it was essentially going to be like, "Oh, how dare you not like Von Wagner?" And it was like almost like you. It was almost a "you people" promo, and then Solo Sikoa interrupted and said like, "Hey man, don't blame the fans." And then they came to blows. They're going to have a match next week. I really don't see them having Solo Sikoa lose to Von Wagner because they've built up Solo a lot. Yet they're very determined to build up Von Wagner, and reportedly, Solo Sikoa may be potentially in consideration for a main roster call up. So as Eddie points out, maybe we'll have Von Wagner get that win because that would be a big win for him, and send Solo packing potentially to join the Bloodline. But yeah, I just thought that was one of the funnier things tonight. With like pretty much every time he's on the show, from Von Wagner, we talk about like, man, not liking it. Everyone in the comments doesn't seem to love him, and they're still giving him pretty much wins almost every time he's out there. It's still something's still not really clicking. Even in a short promo tonight, like it's just he's not quite there with his promos either. So we'll see. But I mean, obviously, a win over Solo would be a big thing for Von Wagner, even with these concerns. That we've been seeing. Steven says, "Please let Solo win next week." I don't know. Well, I think that could be telling for potentially his future on NXT. If he is bound for the main roster, that will be one way to write him off. Otherwise, here, Von Wagner likes to think he's the future of NXT. DJ points out Zion Quinn had a promo where he said that he's the future of NXT. My problem is, if you're going to be the future of NXT, you got to start winning some matches. Like, this guy's out there, like, what has he done lately? Like, when he's out there saying he's the future, like, gosh, you got to show me something now.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything or won anything, so I don't understand what the point of that was, because it's not believable at this point.
And he's still like kind of feuding with Apollo Crews, even though Apollo Crews is now going to be facing Giovanni next week. I'm not quite sure what they're doing there. If they're trying to do the longer term play of Apollo feuding with Zion Quinn, I don't know. Because I'm thinking Apollo you could easily slot him in for a title match at the next big show. Whereas if the plan is for Zion Quinn to be his next feud, maybe that's a little bit of a less substantial thing for him. But DJ points out that Quinn has done more than Sanga. I mean, I guess that's fair. I mean, Sanga's been around; he's got a couple wins, but he's been featured a little less than Zion Quinn at this point. So maybe it's a fair comparison. But again, it's just like he's out there, he's saying all these things, and he's not backing it up. You gotta back up what you're talking. At least for me to believe you. I know that's the point, but I'm like, this comes off as a little fake or a little phony. But yeah, Steven agreeing that he just needs some wins. That's all I'm saying. He's giving some wins. I just says Lions probably gonna get called to main roster. I think we're a little ways away from that. Like, he's and I know he's been in the system for a little while, but like I still feel like we haven't really seen all that much of him and what he can do here on NXT. So I think if that does happen, probably not going to be, at least not right away. That'll be my assumption. Otherwise, here, the main event, the biggest match on the show here, Braun Breaker defending the NXT Championship against Cameron Grimes. This is a feud that definitely picked up steam last week as we were talking about a very good show closing segment with Grimes saying that Braun Breaker, he had a smoother ride here, and Grimes did not. It was a very emotional promo, saying it's safe for this match, and also the post-match angle where Braun hurt his arm, and he was quote-unquote cleared for action last night, but that was definitely the big storyline here of him not being 100%. Grimes attacked the arm. Grimes hit the cave-in. He hit his like Spanish fly kind of thing. He threw everything he had at Braun Breaker, and in the end, Braun still speared him for the win. Braun Breaker retains, and then after the match, JD, McDonough, whatever, Jordan Devlin attacks him, leaves him lying. They slam through a table, and at the end of the show standing tall. So very clearly, looks like Jordan McDonough or whatever is being positioned as this big new player on NXT.
Yeah, I mean, just for the sake of this, I'm going to say Jordan Devlin. It's a lot easier to say than JD McDonough. However, this is Braun Breaker moving on to another strong heel that has proven himself. He's been a champion in NXT UK, a cruiserweight, all that stuff. He's likely to be a future champion again someday. However, with that being said, I do not think he's going to be the one to ultimately dethrone Braun Breaker, but it's going to be an immediate impact and positive thing for both of them to work off each other. It allows Braun Breaker to continue developing his character, mic work, in-ring skills against somebody that's already proven to be able to do all that. And it'll allow, Devlin to do himself what he's done all the time, and that's to put on great matches. And he's a talker, and he's proven that he can be a talker. The match itself tonight was okay. It was a pretty strong main event. Had a good pace. They made it look really close, as if Braun Breaker like barely eked out the win. There's something to be said about the future of Grimes. Is he done in NXT? It appears that he should be. maybe he'll take a few weeks off and do something after SummerSlam, or maybe he'll be the third model of Maximum Male Models, which would be so ironic to have him work with Max Dupree again. We'll see.
It is interesting that was something I thought of as well. Both, I guess, before the match and especially after, once he did lose. He said in like pretty much every interview, and he said it on the show itself multiple times in the build of this match, where he said like if Braun Breaker loses, he'll probably get called up to the main roster. But if Cameron Grimes, if I lose, he said I don't have a backup plan. Like this is it for me. So then he lost, and it's like, well, then what? Like if he lost, like is he going to get called to the main roster? Is it going to be something else? I don't know. That question definitely hung over my mind of like, I think he's obviously talented enough to go on the main roster, but like we as we've seen before, some of these kind of NXT Black and Gold era stars don't always get called up to the main roster. And not to say that's entirely the case for Carl Rodriguez, Max LA Knight now as well, Max Dupree as you mentioned. There are exceptions, but Cameron Grimes has been there for a while now, so it feels like it's just be a little weird. And this is what you usually see; they'll lose the match and then move up. But like, I just thought it was interesting they said that as if like, oh, there's no way that he could move up the main roster, and then to have that happen will be interesting. Steven says that Grimes is going to go to the moon, going to the main roster. Likewise, Eddie's saying Cameron Grimes will go to the main roster. He's already lost. He lost the North American title, and he lost in his challenging for the NXT title here. DJ says it's a great match. If Grimes is going to succeed with another title reign, he needs to go heel. I mean, he's already turned heel here. Like he was already clearly the heel of this feud. DJ points out that when Grimes was in Impact Wrestling as Trevor Lee, he was a fantastic heel. So maybe if they kind of go further into the other end of the spectrum, where it's at least like a full heel, and then that could be an option for him as well. Eddie says Grimes go to the moon with the 24/7 title. I hope not. I hope they would use him better than that. But it's interesting thinking about what his future holds here. If it's something else on NXT, as mentioned, if he takes some time off, or if it's potentially move main roster, we will wait and see. But very talented guy, big fan of his. Thought it was a very good match. Again, even though I did not think there's a chance that Braun will lose, never a problem with having a very good main event. So I enjoyed it. And after the match, again, just for the sake of it, Jordan Devlin attacked Braun Breaker and left him lying there. And he's mentioned that'll be a good kind of strong heel for him to feud with. Someone's been established. They'll have to kind of remind us who he is, especially with a new name. But he does have that track record of success on NXT UK. I remember being impressed with him when he briefly feuded with Santos Escobar. So I think that could be a good feud for Braun as well. And looking forward to seeing what the former Jordan Devlin can do here on NXT. But overall here, I thought it was a pretty solid show tonight. I thought the matches were good. Roxanne and Cora winning was pretty cool, and that made me happy. Good title matches. Otherwise, good setup for next week as well. It's always good to have kind of an idea of where you're going for next week. So we can look forward to the women's title match, to Apollo versus Giovanni. And then otherwise here, again, even if it's not a SummerSlam weekend show, you have on to the next one. But John, what do you think about the show tonight?
I give it an average 7. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't anything spectacular, but for one of their special TV shows, I think it did just what it intended to do, and kind of capped off some stories that needed to be ended, and also developed some new ones that are going to be told the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I would agree. Herman says 7 as well. I would go for a 7. Not a bad show, but not like a super great show either. I thought it was fairly good. That's with a 7.5. Saying she was happy we got new tag team champions. I mean, yeah, that was probably one of the better parts of the show for me. But good matches, good look at what's coming next with the Jordan Devlin return, with the Roxanne and Mandy thing. So a good balance of delivering a good show, saying what's next. The winning recipe in my book, so I enjoyed it. So I'll give it a 7. Fairly good show. DJ pointed out earlier that he's friends with Cora in real life, so I was very happy to see her win the title tonight. So he's saying it's at 7.75. Happy for his friend Cora. So yeah, and likewise for me, less so friends, but having interviewed Roxanne in the past when she was with Ring of Honor, definitely always root for her and want to see her do well. So I thought that was very cool to see one of the titles. So yeah, that definitely enhanced my enjoyment of at least that match and the overall show. I was feeling pretty good coming out of that. Otherwise, here, so we mentioned it was on the next one for NXT. It's on the next one for us. We're here with the Raw post show, the SmackDown post show. Mondays and Tuesdays, United John, we do that. Otherwise, here the 2 Diamond Dudes and Rampage go for all things AEW. We have a great stream of interviews constantly coming at you guys. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, all that good stuff and more. It's not on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. We appreciate your support so very much. The world outside, it's a very scary place, but John, we're coming together to do one thing above all others. You can't tell me what that is.
Enjoy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, everybody.